Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at another pretty competitively priced 100 amp hour LiFePO4 battery from Cenerius. This battery is running for around 319 bucks with a 5% discount code on Amazon, bringing the price down to a little over 300 bucks. So this is your typical standard everyday 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery, but they do claim that it features low temp charging protection. So we're going to be testing that out with this battery. I've done a few reviews on a couple of batteries in the past that have been around the same price point that did feature low temp cutoff protection, and they all worked fantastic, and I have highly recommended some of those batteries. So let's see if this Cenerius does as well in the testing as my previous batteries. Now again, a little over 300 bucks. LiFePO4, 1280 watt hours. You can configure this battery up to a 4S4P configuration. So again, if you really feel like going to buy 16 of these batteries and hooking them together, you can do that to create a 400 amp hour, 52 volt battery energy storage setup at your home. I really don't know anyone that's gonna go buy 16 of these, but if you feel the urge, you can buy a lot of these and 4S4P connect them. This has got your standard 100 amp BMS, so you can continuously discharge at up to 100 amps, and you can charge at up to a max 50 amps. But I have not even tested to see, again, what these companies shipped this battery to me at in terms of state of charge. I always find that kind of entertaining to see if they ship me a fully charged battery or a dead battery. So just took the caps off. Let's take a look to see what they sent it to me at. 13.24. That's a pretty good voltage. That they're not shipping me a fully charged battery, which is not what I like to see. I don't want to receive a fully charged battery because I don't know how long this thing's been sitting on a shelf in a warehouse fully charged. That's not good for LiFePO4 batteries. So I'm gonna get this thing fully topped off with my charger. I'm gonna get it on my test rig. Again, we're gonna do a capacity discharge test and then a max continuous discharge test to make sure that we can get at least 100 amps out of this. And then the all fun test, stick it in my freezer, which my wife loves, and pull it out the next day and see if that low temp cutoff feature actually works. While I'm thinking about it, I didn't even discuss, it does come with two M8 terminal bolts and of course your little terminal caps that go along with it. So you do not get a spare set of these bolts, so don't lose them. There are a few brands of batteries that I've reviewed that actually send you two pair of these bolts, but that's okay. I'm not gonna knock it for them not sending me a spare set. Just be careful when you're unpackaging it not to lose them. So I have got the battery completely charged up now. Let me show you what we're sitting at the voltage before we begin this test. And we're at 13.76. So battery is topped up. I've got my halogen light bulb that I'll be using running through my inverter to discharge this battery. So before we get started, let me also show you the app. So as you can see here, I've got elapsed amp hour set to 0, 100% battery state of charge, and my voltage is sitting at 13.166. This halogen light bulb is actually pulling 525 watts or 40 amps. So this is a little bit more than 0.2C discharge test, but we'll go ahead and see how this battery handles it, and we'll come back after it's completely depleted and check to see how many amp hours we were able to squeeze out of it. Well, we ran this battery dry all the way to empty, and we were able to get 103.9 amp hours. So almost 104 amp hours out of this guy. I do have my charger connected because I had to get the shunt turned back on, but now we're gonna get this battery topped up all the way to full, and then we're gonna do a 100 amp continuous discharge test. But I will say 104 amp hours off of the rated 100 amp hours is pretty good. So the battery is fully topped off, and again, this is rated at a continuous discharge rate of 100 amps. So we're gonna test that out and see if we can run that for around 10 minutes. Get my clamp meter turned on here. And we're gonna be using the heat gun. Bumps me up to around 60 amps on low. And let me try to dial this down to 100 amps as close as I can. I'd say that's pretty good. We're hovering around 102 amps, going back down to around 100, so we're gonna start it here and see if this battery can continually run that heat gun for 100 amps for about 10 minutes. So apologies for the terrible audio, but I'm having to do a voiceover here. But you can see there I was at 10 minutes and 30 seconds, and I'm still running over 100 amps on this battery. So I'd say this battery easily can discharge 100 amps continuously for well over 10 minutes. And I wanted to see exactly how much I could push this battery. So I'm hooking up another 500 watt space heater to my inverter, and you can see here on my clamp meter that I'm up at around 175 amps, and that's going to climb up just a little bit, almost to 190 amps. It's going to kind of settle back down once that heater gets warmed up, but this battery continuously ran 190 amps for several minutes. Doing a little bit of jibber jabber talking here. My cables are getting quite warm. I've only got a 250 amp fuse on this setup, so I was a little bit concerned that that fuse was getting pretty hot, but it's running it just fine. And you can see down here we did kind of go back down to 170 amps, and the BMS on this battery did not shut it down. So I really wanted to push this BMS to see when it was going to cut off. So I hooked up my second heat gun, and I'm at 190 amps now. I'm going to slowly turn this heat gun up, and we're going to get it to around 210, 215 amps. And finally, the BMS kicks in and shuts down the battery right about here. Right there. So anything over 200 amps, you're only going to get just a few seconds, which is a good thing. You don't want that battery pushing out that many amps. So I would say the BMS actually functioned pretty well inside this battery. So I just pulled this thing out of the deep freeze. It was sitting at around 2 degrees Fahrenheit. It is below freezing, absolutely. So let's see if we can get this charger to hopefully not cut on. Looking good so far. Make sure, leave that set for a couple seconds, make sure it's not going to click on. So if this were to charge, that green light that you can see there hopefully would turn red, meaning that this charger is charging the battery, but nothing is cutting on. The fans are not on this charger, and so we're all on a level playing field. Put my clamp meter, and we are getting nothing. So sweet. So obviously low temp charging protection works on this battery as well. So kudos to these battery manufacturers for starting to finally implement low temp charging protection. So final thoughts on this little Cenerius battery. It did well. It did great actually. 104-ish amp hours on the discharge test. The max continuous discharge, I was able to get 100 amps for over 10 minutes. I know the audio kind of messed up. I had to do a voiceover, but I did get over 10 minutes running it at a continuous 100 amps. And it even ran for quite a few minutes at 170 amps when I hooked up a second heater. It finally tripped the BMS when I got it over around 210, 215 amps. The BMS cut in like it should and shut the battery down. And the kicker is, yes, the low temp charging protection feature does actually work on this battery. So at around 300 bucks, 305 bucks with the 5% off coupon code on Amazon, I think it's a pretty good deal. A lot of these batteries are averaging around 300 to 350 bucks. Some have low temp protection, some don't. This one does. So I think for the price that they're offering this battery for, comparable to some other batteries in this same class that don't have low temp charging protection, I think this is probably a better buy because you get that added benefit of not being able to charge the battery below freezing. But for the price, it performed very well. So I got to give this one a 2 thumbs up too. So if you can catch this thing on sale, even better deal, guys. If you can get this thing below 300 bucks, I think it's a pretty good deal. So folks, that's it for this review. Thanks for watching. Till next time, take care.